The massive command ship Eternal Glory drifted silently through the void between stars. Its gleaming hull stretched for miles, bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. Inside the ship's heart, Emperor Vexhai sat on his crystalline throne reading reports from across his vast empire. The Zephyrian Galactic Empire ruled over 12,000 star systems. For 3,000 years they had conquered world after world, bringing lesser species under their control. Some fought back at first, but all eventually submitted. The Emperor's forces were too strong, too advanced, too numerous. Resistance was pointless. Admiral Toruk approached the throne with careful steps. His forearms carried a data pad that glowed with urgent symbols. The Admiral's scaled skin showed stress patterns that meant something important had happened. "My Emperor," Admiral Toruk said, bowing low, "we have received an unusual transmission from the Outer Rim territories." Emperor Vexhai's golden eyes focused on his military commander. The Outer Rim was where they found new worlds to conquer. Recently, their scouts had identified several promising systems with primitive life forms. "Show me," the Emperor commanded. A holographic display appeared in the air above them. It showed a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. The world looked beautiful from space, with white clouds swirling over vast oceans and green continents. "This planet is called Earth by its inhabitants," Admiral Toruk explained. "Our long-range scouts detected radio signals from this world 50 years ago. The species there calls itself human. They appear to be in the early stages of space travel." The Emperor nodded. This was normal. The Empire's scouts always monitored developing worlds for decades before conquest. It helped them understand local politics and technology levels. "What makes this transmission unusual?" the Emperor asked. Admiral Toruk touched his datapad. Suddenly, a voice filled the throne room. It spoke in perfect Zephyrian language, which was impossible. No species outside the Empire knew their tongue. "This is humanity speaking to the Zephyrian Galactic Empire," the voice said. It sounded calm and confident. "We know you are watching us. We know you are planning to add our world to your empire. We are sending this message to inform you of our position on this matter." The Emperor's golden eyes widened. How did these primitives know they were being watched? How did they know the Empire's name? How did they speak Zephyrian? The voice continued. "We have studied your methods of conquest. We have observed your expansion patterns. We understand your technology and your tactics. After careful consideration, we have decided that Earth will not be joining your empire." Several members of the War Council laughed. The sound echoed through the throne room like breaking glass. The idea that a primitive world could refuse the Empire was amusing. "Furthermore," the human voice went on, "we strongly advise you to avoid our solar system entirely. This is not a negotiation or a plea for mercy. This is a warning. Do not come to Earth." The transmission ended. Silence filled the throne room. Emperor Vexhai stared at the holographic image of Earth. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever warned the Empire to stay away. Most begged for mercy. Some tried to hide. A few attempted to flee to other star systems. But none had ever issued warnings. "How did they learn our language?" asked General Zorak, the Empire's chief strategist. "More importantly," said Admiral Toruk, "how do they know we exist? Our scout ships use advanced stealth technology. They should be invisible to primitive sensors." Chief Intelligence Officer Kretha stepped forward. She was the Empire's expert on alien psychology and behavior. Her job was to understand how conquered species thought and acted. "My Emperor," she said carefully, "I recommend extreme caution regarding this world." The other council members turned to stare at her. Recommending caution about a primitive world was almost unthinkable. "Explain," the Emperor commanded. Kretha activated her own datapad. Charts and graphs appeared in the air around them. "I've analyzed this transmission very carefully," she said. "The humans demonstrated knowledge they should not possess. They spoke our language perfectly with proper grammar and formal diplomatic protocol. They knew our empire's name, which we have never broadcast on frequencies they could detect." She paused, studying the data. "Most concerning is their tone," she continued. "In 3,000 years of conquest, I have studied the communications of over 800 species facing imperial expansion. They all show similar patterns: fear, desperation, anger, or submission. This transmission shows none of these emotions." "What does it show?" asked the Emperor. "Confidence," Kretha replied. "Complete, absolute confidence. They are not afraid of us. They are not asking us to reconsider. They are simply informing us of a decision they have already made. In my professional opinion, this suggests they believe they have the capability to enforce their warning. General Zorak made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. Impossible. Our scouts report that humans have barely achieved interplanetary travel. Their largest spacecraft are smaller than our fighters. Their weapons still use chemical propulsion. They have no energy shields, no faster-than-light communication, no planetary defense networks. That we can detect, Kretha said quietly. The Emperor considered this. He had ruled the Empire for 800 years. His ancestors had conquered worlds for 3,000 years before him. Never once had the Empire encountered a species that could threaten them. Show me their military capabilities, he ordered. Admiral Toruk brought up new displays. Images of human spacecraft appeared around them. The ships looked crude and primitive compared to Zephyrian technology. They burned chemical fuels and could barely reach their own planet's moon. Their largest weapons are nuclear devices, the Admiral reported. Powerful by their standards, but our shields can absorb such attacks easily. Their population is approximately 8 billion individuals spread across one world. Our conquest fleets typically number 50 dreadnoughts, each carrying 10,000 troops. The mathematical advantage is overwhelming. Emperor Vexhai studied the human ships for a long moment. They did look primitive. But something about this situation felt wrong. Why would a helpless species issue warnings instead of pleas? Perhaps, suggested General Zorak, this is an attempt at psychological warfare. Some species try to appear stronger than they actually are. Perhaps, the Emperor agreed. But he continued staring at the blue and green world on the display. Chief Intelligence Officer Kretha stepped closer to the throne. My Emperor, I request permission to conduct extended surveillance of this world before any military action. How long? The Emperor asked. 6 months minimum. I want to understand how they obtained their knowledge about us. I want to know if they have hidden capabilities our scouts missed. Admiral Toruk made an impatient sound. My Emperor, we have conquest schedules to maintain. Delaying action because of fears about a primitive world sets a dangerous precedent. What if other species learn that warnings can delay the Empire? This was a valid concern. The Empire's power rested partly on the belief that resistance was futile. If word spread that a primitive world had successfully warned off the Empire, it might encourage others to try the same thing. No, the Emperor decided. We proceed with standard conquest protocol. Prepare a fleet. The full 50 dreadnoughts? Asked Admiral Toruk. The Emperor considered. Standard procedure for primitive worlds was usually 10 ships, but something about this situation demanded overwhelming force. Yes, 50 dreadnoughts. I want this conquest completed quickly and efficiently. If these humans have some hidden trick, numerical superiority will overcome it. Kretha bowed reluctantly. As you command, my Emperor. As the War Council dispersed to prepare the fleet, Kretha remained behind. She stared at the image of Earth, studying the swirling white clouds and blue oceans. Somewhere on that beautiful world, a species that should have been helpless had issued a warning to the most powerful empire in the galaxy. She hoped they were bluffing, because if they were not, the Empire was about to make the greatest mistake in its 3,000-year history. Admiral Toruk stood on the bridge of his flagship Conqueror's Pride, watching the blue and green world grow larger on the main display. Behind him, 49 other massive dreadnoughts held perfect formation. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a continent. The conquest fleet had traveled for 6 weeks to reach Earth's solar system. During the journey, long-range sensors had confirmed what the scouts reported. Earth appeared to have minimal space-based defenses. A few small space stations orbited the planet, along with numerous communications satellites. Nothing that could threaten an Imperial dreadnought. Sir, reported Navigation Officer Delmar, we are approaching the edge of the human home system. Maintain formation, Admiral Toruk commanded. Begin standard scanning protocols. The Empire's conquest procedure was well established. First, they would scan the system for hidden defenses or escape routes. Then they would position their ships around the target world and demand surrender. If the inhabitants refused, orbital bombardment would begin. Few species required more than a demonstration of Imperial firepower to understand their situation. Sir, called sensor operator Velon, I'm detecting some unusual structures on the third planet's moon. Admiral Toruk frowned. The human moon was supposed to be a dead rock with a few research outposts. Specify unusual. There appear to be installations built into the lunar surface, Velon reported. They're partially buried, but our deep scans are detecting metallic structures of significant size. Military installations? Unknown, sir. The construction doesn't match any known defensive patterns. Admiral Toruk considered this information. Hidden moon bases were not uncommon among developing species. Usually they contained research facilities or mining operations. Threat assessment? Minimal, sir. No energy signatures indicating active weapon systems. The Admiral nodded. Moon bases might indicate the humans were slightly more advanced than initially thought, but they posed no real danger to 50 dreadnoughts. Continue approach. Signal the fleet to prepare for standard orbital positioning. The Imperial ships moved deeper into the solar system. Earth grew larger ahead of them, its blue oceans and white clouds beautiful against the black of space. Cities glowed like scattered jewels on the night side of the planet. Admiral Toruk had overseen the conquest of 43 worlds during his career. He always felt a moment of sadness when viewing a living planet for the first time. Soon those lights would be under Imperial control. The species below would become workers in the Empire's vast machine. Sir, sensor operator Velon called out urgently. Multiple contacts appearing on sensors. Specify. Ships, sir. Human ships. They're coming from everywhere. Admiral Toruk spun to face the main display. What he saw made his blood freeze. Dozens of sleek, dark vessels were emerging from hiding places throughout the solar system. They had been concealed behind asteroids, inside the gas giants' rings, and within the shadows of moons. As he watched, more ships appeared from what seemed like empty space itself. How many? He demanded, counting. Sir, I'm reading over 200 contacts, and more are still appearing. This was impossible. Imperial scouts had been monitoring this system for 50 years. They had detected no evidence of a large space fleet. Ship classifications. Velon's voice was tight with confusion. Unknown, sir. The designs don't match anything in our databases. They're approximately half the size of our dreadnoughts, but their energy signatures are unusual. Open a communication channel, Admiral Toruk ordered. A moment later, a human voice filled the bridge. It spoke perfect Zephyrian again, calm and polite. Admiral Toruk of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We warned your Empire to stay away from our system. You have chosen to ignore that warning. This is your final opportunity to withdraw. The Admiral's 4 hands clenched into fists. How did they know his name? How did they know his rank? Imperial fleet movements were classified at the highest levels. Human vessel, he replied. You are addressing the Imperial Navy of the Zephyrian Empire. We demand your immediate surrender. Resistance is futile. There was a pause before the human responded. Admiral, we have studied your standard conquest procedures.
We know you typically demand surrender before demonstrating your firepower.
We also know you prefer to capture worlds intact, rather than destroy them completely. Unfortunately for you, we are not a typical world. You have 60 ships, Admiral Toruk said. We have 50 dreadnoughts. The outcome of any conflict is obvious. Is it? The human asked. Admiral, how many ships do you think we actually have? Admiral Toruk looked at his sensor operator, who was frantically working at his console. Sir, Velon reported in a shaking voice. New contacts are still appearing. Current count is over 400 human vessels. And sir, I'm detecting energy signatures from the lunar installations. They're powering up. On the main display, the human moon began to glow. Sections of its surface slid apart, revealing massive structures beneath. Weapon emplacements emerged from hidden bays. Launch tubes opened along crater rims. The entire moon had been converted into a fortress. Impossible, Admiral Toruk whispered. Admiral, the human voice continued, you should know that we have been aware of your scouts since they first entered our system 50 years ago. We allowed them to see exactly what we wanted them to see. Your intelligence is incomplete. More human ships were still appearing. The Admiral realized they had been hiding in places Imperial sensors couldn't detect. Advanced stealth technology far beyond what primitives should possess. Sir, called his communications officer, I'm receiving reports from the fleet. Multiple captains are requesting instructions. The human ships are taking attack positions. Admiral Toruk had commanded Imperial fleets for 2 centuries. He had faced desperate last stands, surprise attacks, and overwhelming odds, but he had never encountered anything like this. All ships, he ordered, assume defensive formation. Prepare for combat. Admiral, the human voice said, I'm going to give you some advice. Your ships are designed for fighting other Imperial vessels or primitive craft. Our ships are designed specifically for fighting yours. We have studied your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. We know exactly how to defeat Zephyrian dreadnoughts. Prove it, Admiral Torek snarled. Very well. What happened next would be remembered as the shortest space battle in galactic history. The human ships moved like nothing Admiral Torek had ever seen. They were impossibly fast, changing direction without apparent inertia. Their weapons struck with surgical precision, targeting specific systems rather than trying to destroy entire ships. Within minutes, 3 Imperial dreadnoughts were dead in space, their engines and weapons disabled. The humans had somehow known exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. Sir, his tactical officer shouted, the humans are targeting our shield generators and engine cores. They know our ship designs better than we do. More dreadnoughts went dark as human weapons found critical systems. The Imperial return fire seemed to have no effect. Human ships danced between the massive energy beams as if they knew where each shot would be aimed before it was fired. Sir, the Eternal Might is requesting evacuation. Their entire bridge crew is unconscious, some kind of neural weapon. The Star Crusher reports boarding parties. Humans in the engineering sections. Sir, they're not trying to destroy us. They're capturing our ships. Admiral Torek watched in horror as his fleet fell apart around him. The humans fought with a precision and knowledge that seemed impossible. Every Imperial tactic was countered before it could be implemented. Every weapon system was neutralized with minimal effort. Admiral, the human voice said calmly, you have lost 17 ships. We can capture or destroy the rest within the next 10 minutes. Or you can order a withdrawal. How? Admiral Torek asked, his voice barely a whisper. How do you know so much about us? We warned you not to come here, Captain Chen replied. That warning was a courtesy. We hoped you would be smart enough to listen. Admiral Torek looked at his tactical display. 33 Imperial dreadnoughts remained operational. Over 400 human ships surrounded them. The moon bristled with enough weapons to destroy his entire fleet. The primitives had been ready for them. All ships, he said quietly, begin withdrawal procedures. A wise choice, Admiral, the human said. Oh, an Admiral? When you report to your Emperor, please give him a message from humanity. What message? We told you so. As the battered Imperial fleet limped away from Earth, Admiral Torek realized that everything the Empire thought it knew about humans was wrong. They were not primitive. They were not helpless. And they were definitely not afraid. They were something far more dangerous. They were prepared. Emperor Vexai stared at the report Admiral Torek had delivered 3 days ago. The holographic display showed the aftermath of the disastrous Earth expedition. 17 dreadnoughts captured, 28 damaged, and thousands of Imperial personnel taken prisoner. The most powerful conquest fleet in the Empire's history had been defeated by a species that wasn't supposed to have advanced technology. My Emperor, Admiral Torek said from where he knelt beside the throne, I take full responsibility for this failure. The Emperor's golden eyes remained fixed on the tactical analysis. The human ships had moved in ways that violated known physics. Their weapons had targeted Imperial systems with impossible accuracy. Most disturbing of all, they had demonstrated complete knowledge of Zephyrian technology and tactics. You are not at fault, the Emperor said finally. You were operating on false intelligence. The question now is how to respond to this humiliation. General Zorak stepped forward. My Emperor, I recommend immediate retaliation. Deploy the Third Fleet with instructions to sterilize the human world completely. No more attempts at conquest. Simply remove the threat. Chief Intelligence Officer Kretha raised one of her 4 hands. My Emperor, before we escalate further, perhaps we should try to understand what happened. The humans displayed capabilities that should not exist. We need to know how they acquired such technology. Does it matter? General Zorak demanded. They humiliated the Empire. They captured our ships. They must be destroyed before word of this defeat spreads to other worlds. The Emperor considered both positions. News of the failed conquest was already spreading through the Outer Rim territories. Several worlds had canceled tribute shipments, claiming they needed to verify the Empire's continued strength. If the Empire appeared weak, rebellions would follow. Deploy the Third Fleet, the Emperor decided. But not to Earth. I want them positioned at our border systems, ready to respond to any human aggression. My Emperor? General Zorak looked confused. The humans proved they can defeat our standard forces, the Emperor explained, but they also showed restraint. They could have destroyed our entire fleet, but they chose to capture and release it instead. This suggests they prefer negotiation to annihilation. Admiral Torek looked up from his kneeling position. My Emperor, Captain Chen, did say their warning was a courtesy. Perhaps they genuinely want to be left alone. Perhaps, the Emperor agreed, but I will not allow this insult to stand unanswered. If the humans want to play games, we will show them the full power of the Empire. What the Emperor did not know was that human ships were already moving through Imperial space. 3 weeks after the failed Earth conquest, Mining Station Omega-7 went silent. The facility processed rare metals from an asteroid field in the Kelmar system. When the Imperial Navy arrived to investigate, they found the station intact but empty. Every piece of equipment had been carefully removed. Every data file had been copied and deleted. The 7,000 Zephyrian workers had vanished without a trace. Security recordings showed sleek, dark ships appearing from what seemed like empty space. Figures in advanced armor had boarded the station with precision and efficiency. No shots were fired. No one was harmed. The miners had simply been collected and taken away. On the hull of the station, burned into the metal in perfect Zephyrian script, was a single message. Your people are safe. They will be returned when you withdraw from our space. 2 days later, Research Facility Delta Prime suffered the same fate. Then Supply Depot Gamma 12. Then Communication Relay Theta 9. The pattern was always identical. Human ships would appear without warning, disable all defenses without destroying them, collect all personnel and valuable equipment, and leave a polite message promising the safe return of Imperial citizens. Within a month, the humans had struck 47 Imperial installations across a dozen star systems. Not one Imperial citizen had been harmed, but thousands had been taken. More importantly, the humans were demonstrating an ability to strike anywhere in Imperial space without being detected. How are they doing this? Emperor Vexai demanded during an emergency war council session. Admiral Torek studied the tactical reports. My Emperor, their ships appear to use some form of advanced stealth technology. Our sensors cannot detect them until they choose to reveal themselves. What about our patrol fleets? They avoid direct confrontation, my Emperor. When our ships arrive at attack sites, the humans are already gone. They seem to know our response patterns perfectly. Chief Intelligence Officer Kretha activated a holographic map showing all the human strikes. Red dots marked each attacked facility, connected by flowing lines that showed the pattern of raids. My Emperor, she said carefully, I have analyzed the human attack strategy. They are not striking randomly. Each target was carefully selected for maximum psychological impact. Explain. The humans are demonstrating several things simultaneously, Kretha continued. First, they can strike anywhere in our territory at will. Second, they have detailed knowledge of our infrastructure and operations. Third, they are more interested in gathering intelligence than causing destruction. General Zorak slammed his fist against his datapad. They are making us look like fools. Every world in the Empire is talking about how humans can attack Imperial facilities without consequence. That appears to be the point, Kretha observed. They are undermining our reputation for invincibility without actually declaring war. Emperor Vexai stared at the map of human strikes. The red dots formed a pattern that surrounded Earth like a protective barrier. Every attacked facility had been within 50 light-years of the human homeworld. They are creating a buffer zone, he realized. Yes, my Emperor, Kretha agreed. They want us to stay away from their territory. These attacks are designed to discourage Imperial expansion in their direction. And it's working, Admiral Torok admitted reluctantly. Fleet commanders are requesting permission to avoid the outer rim entirely. Morale is dropping throughout the Navy. The Emperor's golden eyes blazed with anger. In 3,000 years, no species had successfully challenged Imperial expansion. The humans were not just resisting conquest. They were actively pushing the Empire backward. Sir, a communications officer interrupted. We are receiving a transmission from the humans. Put it through. The familiar voice of Captain Chen filled the throne room. As always, she spoke perfect Zephyrian with calm confidence. Emperor Vexai, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We regret the necessity of our recent actions, but your empire has continued to maintain a threatening posture toward our world. You have attacked Imperial facilities, the Emperor snarled. You have taken Imperial citizens prisoner. We have temporarily relocated some of your people to ensure their safety during this period of tension, Chen corrected. They are being treated well and will be returned unharmed when you withdraw your forces from our region of space. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. There was a pause before Chen responded. Emperor, our intelligence indicates that you have positioned the Third Fleet at your border systems. We interpret this as preparation for a larger assault on Earth. We want to make our position clear. Any further military action against our world will result in escalated responses from humanity. Threaten us again, and we will deploy our entire navy against your pathetic world. Emperor, Chen said gently, do you really think Earth is our only world? The communication ended, leaving the throne room in stunned silence. Chief Intelligence Officer Kretha was the first to speak. My Emperor, what if the humans have colonies we don't know about? Impossible, General Zorak protested. Our scouts would have detected any human expansion. Our scouts didn't detect their fleet either, Admiral Torek pointed out grimly. Emperor Vexhai stared at the holographic map, studying the pattern of human attacks. Suddenly, the red dots looked different. They no longer seemed like random strikes against Imperial facilities. They looked like markers defining territory that humans considered their own. Kretha, the Emperor said quietly, I want a complete intelligence review of every system within 100 light-years of Earth. Look for any signs of human presence we might have missed. Yes, my Emperor. As the War Council dispersed, Emperor Vexhai remained on his throne, staring at the map. For the first time in his 800-year reign, he was beginning to understand that the Empire might have encountered something beyond their ability to control. The humans had warned them to stay away. When that warning was ignored, they had defended themselves effectively. Now they were demonstrating that they could project power throughout Imperial space at will. The question was no longer whether the Empire could conquer Earth. The question was whether Earth had already begun conquering the Empire. Chief Intelligence Officer Kretha stood in the center of the Empire's most secure data analysis chamber, surrounded by floating holographic displays that showed the results of 6 weeks of intensive investigation. What she had discovered would change everything the Empire thought it knew about humanity. My Emperor, she said as Emperor Vexhai entered the chamber, you need to see this immediately. The Emperor approached the central display, which showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Thousands of star systems glowed in different colors, representing the extent of Imperial territory and influence. Show me what you found, the Emperor commanded. Kretha activated a series of controls. Suddenly, red markers began appearing throughout the galactic map. They spread across hundreds of star systems, many of them deep within what the Empire considered secure territory. Each red marker represents evidence of human presence or influence, Kretha explained. What we discovered is that humans have not been isolated on Earth for the past several centuries. They have been actively involved in galactic affairs for much longer than we realized. The Emperor stared at the display in growing horror. Red markers appeared on worlds the Empire had conquered decades ago. They showed up in systems that should have been completely under Imperial control. How is this possible? He demanded. Kretha brought up a detailed timeline. We began by analyzing genetic samples from Imperial citizens, taken during routine medical examinations over the past century. We found traces of human DNA in populations across 47 different worlds. Interbreeding? The Emperor asked. More than that, my Emperor. These genetic markers suggest humans have been living and working within the Empire for generations. They have integrated themselves into our society so completely that we never realized they were there. New displays appeared, showing communication intercepts, financial records, and shipping manifests. We found evidence of human involvement in Imperial commerce dating back 200 years, Kretha continued. They have been trading with our world, selling us technology, even serving in our military forces. Our military? Yes, my Emperor. We identified at least 300 individuals in the Imperial Navy who show human genetic markers. Some have held significant command positions. The Emperor's golden eyes blazed with fury and fear. You are telling me that humans have infiltrated the Imperial Navy? Not infiltrated, my Emperor. Joined, served honorably. Many received commendations for bravery and tactical excellence. We never suspected their true origins because they appeared to be ordinary Imperial citizens. Admiral Toruk, who had been standing silently nearby, stepped forward. My Emperor, this could explain how the humans knew so much about our technology and tactics during the Earth battle. Kretha nodded grimly. It gets worse, my Emperor. We analyzed the technology on our captured ships, the ones the humans returned after the battle. We found microscopic modifications to critical systems, changes so subtle that our engineers initially missed them. What kind of modifications? Monitoring devices, transmission equipment. The humans had been watching our fleet operations for decades through equipment we never knew existed. The Emperor turned to stare at another display that showed Imperial communication networks. Red pathways traced through the data streams like veins. They have been inside our communication systems as well, Kretha reported. Every message sent through Imperial networks has potentially been intercepted and analyzed by human intelligence services. For how long? Based on the sophistication of their infiltration, possibly for centuries, my Emperor. The implications were staggering. Every Imperial military operation, every conquest plan, every strategic decision had potentially been observed and studied by human agents. The Empire's enemies had known its moves before it made them. My Emperor, Admiral Toruk said quietly, if the humans have been watching us for centuries, then they have had centuries to prepare for war against us. Kretha activated another display. This one showed technological development timelines, comparing Imperial and human advancement. Our analysis suggests that humans have been deliberately guiding Imperial technological development for generations, she said. Many of our greatest innovations actually originated from human scientists working within our research institutions. What do you mean? The improved shield generators we adopted 30 years ago? Designed by Dr. Velquin of the Imperial Science Academy. Genetic analysis confirms he was half human. The new engine designs that increased our fleet speed by 20%. Developed by a research team that included at least 4 humans. The Emperor stared at the evidence mounting around him. They have been making us dependent on their technology. Yes, my Emperor. And more importantly, they ensured that every advancement included hidden vulnerabilities they could exploit. Every improvement to our capabilities came with a secret weakness that only they knew about. A new holographic display showed the battle near Earth from a different perspective. Instead of showing Imperial ships being defeated by superior technology, it now showed Imperial ships being disabled by humans who knew exactly where to strike. The humans didn't defeat us through superior firepower, Kretha explained. They defeated us through superior knowledge. They knew our ships better than we did because they helped design them. Admiral Toruk studied the tactical analysis. Every weakness they exploited, every system they targeted, they put those vulnerabilities there deliberately. The question, the Emperor said slowly, is why? Why would humans spend centuries infiltrating our empire? Why guide our development? Why prepare for a war they could have prevented? Kretha brought up a final display. This one showed Imperial expansion patterns over the past 3 centuries, with human influence markers overlaid on top. My Emperor, I believe the humans have been conducting a massive experiment. Explain. They have been studying us, learning how we think, how we operate, how we conquer other species. Every Imperial campaign has been observed and analyzed by human intelligence. They have been using the Empire as a laboratory to understand galactic warfare. The Emperor stared at the patterns on the display. Imperial expansion had followed predictable routes, always moving away from Earth's region of space. Conquered worlds had been selected based on strategic value that seemed obvious at the time, but now appeared to follow a pattern that benefited human observation. They have been hurting us, he realized with growing horror. Yes, my Emperor. The Empire has been expanding in directions that humans wanted us to expand. We have been conquering worlds that humans wanted us to conquer. Our entire military doctrine has been shaped by subtle human influence. To what end? To prepare for this moment, my Emperor. When they finally revealed themselves, they wanted to ensure they could defeat us completely and efficiently. Every Imperial strength has been catalogued. Every weakness has been identified and exploited. Admiral Toruk accessed his own datapad and brought up fleet deployment records. My Emperor, if the humans have been guiding our expansion for centuries, then they know the location and strength of every Imperial installation. They know our troop movements, our supply lines, our communication protocols, Kretha added. They have complete intelligence on every aspect of Imperial operations. The Emperor stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by evidence of humanity's centuries-long infiltration of his empire. The scope of their deception was almost beyond comprehension. "We are not fighting a primitive species defending their homeworld," he said quietly. "We are fighting a species that has been preparing to fight us since before most of our current worlds were conquered." "My Emperor," Kretha said carefully, "there is one more thing you need to know." "What?" "We believe the humans have been manipulating other species as well. The rebellions in the Andorian sector last year, the trade disputes in the Centauri systems, the diplomatic incidents with the Vegan Confederation, all show signs of human involvement. The Emperor's blood ran cold. They have been destabilizing the Empire. Yes, my Emperor. And based on the timing, I believe they have been preparing for a coordinated campaign. The recent strikes on our facilities were not random harassment. They were the opening moves in a much larger strategy." Admiral Torek studied the galactic map with its spreading red markers. "My Emperor, if the humans have allies among the species we have conquered," he didn't need to finish the sentence. The Emperor understood the implications. The Empire was not facing a single enemy world. It was facing a coordinated rebellion, orchestrated by a species that had spent centuries learning how to destroy them. "How many?" the Emperor asked quietly. "Unknown, my Emperor," Kretha replied. "But based on the evidence, potentially hundreds of worlds. The humans appear to have been establishing relationships with conquered species for generations, probably offering them hope for eventual freedom." The Emperor closed his golden eyes and tried to process the magnitude of what he had learned. The Empire was not at war with humanity. The Empire was at war with an enemy that had been living inside it for centuries, learning its secrets, exploiting its weaknesses, and preparing for this exact moment. "My Emperor," Admiral Torek said quietly, "what are your orders?" Emperor Vexhai opened his eyes and stared at the red markers spreading across the galactic map like a disease. "Need to speak with the humans," he said. "The conference room aboard the neutral trading station." Harmony Point had never hosted such an important meeting. Emperor Vexhai sat across from Captain Sarah Chen, with the vast emptiness of space visible through the transparent aluminum windows behind them. Only a few advisors attended from each side, but everyone present understood that the future of the galaxy was being decided. Captain Chen looked exactly as Emperor Vexhai had expected from her voice transmissions. Calm, confident, and completely unafraid. She was smaller than most Zephyrians, but her presence filled the room with quiet authority. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Emperor Vexhai," she said in perfect Zephyrian. "We hope it will lead to a peaceful resolution of our current difficulties." "Difficulties?" the Emperor replied, his golden eyes blazing. "You call the systematic infiltration and manipulation of my empire difficulties?" Captain Chen smiled slightly. "We prefer to think of it as cultural exchange. Your people learned a great deal from working with ours over the centuries." Chief Intelligence Officer Kretha leaned forward. "How long have you been planning this?" "Planning what?" Chen asked innocently. "The destruction of our empire." Chen's expression became serious. "We have no interest in destroying your empire, Officer Kretha. We simply want you to leave us alone." "By infiltrating our society for generations?" Admiral Torek demanded. "By understanding you," Chen corrected. "Knowledge is the foundation of peace. We needed to understand how your empire worked before we could figure out how to coexist with it." Emperor Vexhai studied the human's face, looking for signs of deception. "You expect me to believe that centuries of espionage and manipulation were motivated by a desire for peace?" "Emperor, let me ask you a question," Chen said. "In 3,000 years of imperial expansion, how many species have successfully resisted conquest?" "None, exactly. Your empire has a perfect record of victory, because you only fight wars you know you can win. You study potential enemies for decades before attacking. You identify their weaknesses and exploit them. You use overwhelming force against unprepared opponents." The Emperor said nothing, but he understood where she was going. "We simply applied the same strategy," Chen continued. "We studied you for centuries. We identified your weaknesses. We prepared overwhelming advantages. The only difference is that we did it to avoid war, not to start one. You humiliated the Empire," General Zorak growled. "You captured our ships. You raided our facilities. You turned our own people against us." Chen turned to face the general. "We defended ourselves when you ignored our warning. We demonstrated our capabilities to discourage further attacks. And we have never turned your people against you. We offered them alternatives. She activated a small device on the table. Holographic images appeared, showing scenes from various imperial worlds. But these were not the usual images of conquest and domination. They showed Zephyrians and humans working together, building cities, advancing science, creating art. For generations, humans and Zephyrians have been collaborating, Chen explained. Your people who worked with ours were not traitors or spies. They were citizens of the Empire who happened to have human friends, human colleagues, human family members. Impossible, the Emperor said. Our security protocols would have detected such extensive infiltration, would they? Chen asked. Emperor, what percentage of your population undergoes genetic screening? Kretha consulted her datapad. Approximately 12%, primarily military personnel and government officials. And what percentage of imperial marriages are arranged through official channels versus personal choice? Perhaps 30% in core worlds, much lower in outer territories. Chen nodded. So for centuries, humans and Zephyrians have been falling in love, getting married, having children, and living normal lives together. Their children grew up as imperial citizens because that's what they were. No infiltration was necessary. We became part of your empire through natural social processes. The Emperor stared at the holographic images. They showed families that looked normal, except that some members had slightly different features that could indicate human ancestry. You are saying that's significant. Portions of our population are part human, he said slowly. I'm saying that the distinction between human and Zephyrian became meaningless centuries ago in many communities, Chen replied. Our species are compatible in ways that go beyond genetics. We share similar values, similar dreams, similar hopes for our children. Admiral Torek leaned back in his chair. If this is true, then why did you reveal yourselves now? Why not continue living peacefully within the Empire? Chen's expression became sad. Because the Empire was expanding toward Earth. Eventually, you would have discovered our homeworld and attempted to conquer it. We couldn't allow that to happen. So you decided to stop us, the Emperor said. We decided to give you a choice, Chen corrected. We could have destroyed your fleet at Earth completely. We could have assassinated Imperial leadership through our agents within your government. We could have triggered simultaneous rebellions on hundreds of worlds. Instead, we demonstrated our capabilities and offered negotiation. General Zorak slammed his fist on the table. You think we will simply surrender to your demands? What demands? Chen asked. We have made no demands. We issued a warning about Earth which you ignored. We defended ourselves when attacked. We are now offering to discuss terms for peaceful coexistence. What terms? The Emperor asked carefully. Chen activated her device again. A new holographic display appeared, showing a map of local space around Earth. We want a buffer zone, she said simply. 100 light years in all directions from Earth. No Imperial military vessels, no Imperial expansion, no Imperial interference with the worlds in that region. Those systems contain valuable resources, Admiral Torek protested. Which you are welcome to purchase through normal trade agreements, Chen replied. We're not asking you to abandon those systems. We're asking you to treat them as independent territories rather than Imperial conquests. Emperor Vexhai studied the proposed buffer zone. It encompassed hundreds of star systems, many of which the Empire had been planning to conquer within the next century. And in exchange? He asked. In exchange, the Empire continues to exist, Chen said quietly. Your current territory remains under Imperial control. Your people continue their lives without interference from us. The only change is that Imperial expansion stops in our direction. You are holding the Empire hostage, General Zorak accused. General, Chen said patiently, the Empire has been expanding for 3,000 years by threatening other species with destruction if they didn't surrender. We are simply offering you the same choice you have given countless others. Accept our terms or face the consequences of continued conflict. And if we refuse? The Emperor asked. Chen was quiet for a long moment before answering. Emperor, over the past 6 months we have established contact with 47 species that the Empire has conquered. We have offered them independence and protection. 39 have accepted. We have also made contact with 12 species that the Empire is currently planning to conquer. All 12 have requested our assistance. The implications hit Emperor Vexhai like a physical blow. You are organizing a galactic rebellion. We are offering oppressed species an alternative to imperial rule, Chen corrected. If the Empire chooses to fight for those territories, it will be fighting not just us but a coalition of dozens of species working together. She leaned forward slightly. Emperor, your empire exists because you have always been the strongest force in local space. That is no longer true. We are stronger than you and we have allies. The age of imperial expansion through conquest is over. The conference room fell silent. Emperor Vexhai stared at the holographic map, calculating possibilities. The Empire's military was already stretched thin, maintaining control over existing territories. Fighting a war against a coalition of species led by humans would be impossible. What about our current worlds? He asked finally. They remain under Imperial control as long as they choose to, Chen replied. But Emperor, you should know that 17 Imperial worlds have already requested to join our coalition as independent members. We expect more to follow. You are dismantling the Empire piece by piece. We are offering the Empire's citizens a choice about their own futures, Chen said. Some will choose to remain Imperial citizens. Others will choose independence. The decision belongs to them, not to us. Admiral Torek looked at his Emperor. My Emperor, what are your orders? Emperor Vexhai closed his golden eyes and considered his options. He could refuse the human demands and watch his empire tear itself apart in a war it could not win. He could try to negotiate better terms and risk human patience. Or he could accept the reality that his species was no longer the dominant power in the galaxy. Captain Chen, he said finally, if I agree to your terms, what guarantees do I have that humanity will honor them? The same guarantee you gave to the species you conquered, Emperor. Our word, backed by our ability to enforce it. The Emperor understood. For 3,000 years, the Empire had maintained order through strength. Now humanity,